Maybe you felt it before, a strange pain in your body, no clear injury, no medical reason, just there, like a silent memory, a quiet echo from someplace you can't explain. And maybe it didn't begin in this life. Maybe it began long before you were born. When Edgar Cayce closed his eyes and entered a deep trance, he often said, "The soul carries the record, but the body is the playback. The soul writes the story, but the body is where it unfolds. Every joint, every scar, every weakness that lingers without cause, they may not be random. They may be reminders. You are not just flesh and bones. You are memory printed into matter. Sometimes your body aches, not because it is broken, but because your soul is speaking through it. Not everyone notices, but perhaps you've felt it. An emotion trapped behind your ribs, a tension in your throat when no words are spoken, a strange reaction to a part of your own body. This isn't superstition. This is soul science. In this video, we will walk together through 8 layers of awareness, 8 signs your body may be holding onto the karma of your past life. Each one is a doorway. Each one a key, not to teach you something new, but to help you remember what your soul already knows. If you've ever felt out of place in your own skin, if you've ever carried a pain no doctor could explain, or sensed that your body is telling you a story you've forgotten, you are not alone, and you are not broken. You're just remembering. Let's begin with something you see every day, your skin. Sometimes healing begins, not with a doctor's diagnosis, but with a quiet realization that your skin, this outer layer of who you are, might be holding a memory, not from your childhood, not from trauma in this life, but from a lifetime you've already lived and left behind. There are people who carry birthmarks shaped like wounds, a woman with a mark over her heart, who, under regression, recalled being stabbed in the chest during a revolution, a man with chronic throat pain, who, without ever knowing why, feared speaking his truth in front of others. His Cayce-style reading revealed a life as a priest silenced during a purge. Edgar Cayce believed that nothing about the body is accidental. Every flaw, every bend, every place you feel shame, resistance, or pain might be a message left by your soul. The body is the record of experience, he said, and in its very form, the soul's story is written, not as punishment, but as remembrance. Quantum biology now suggests that trauma can imprint itself on DNA. Cells remember what the mind forgets. And in the language of energy, skin may be the page on which memory is written. Think about this. Why do some parts of your body feel like strangers? Why do certain textures or sensations make you flinch? Even when there's no threat, it may not be fear. It may be resonance, a signal from a time your conscious mind has never seen, but your soul never left behind. So look at your body differently, not as a machine to fix, but as a story to read. Run your fingers over the scar you've always hidden. Look again at the birthmark you never understood. Trace the curve of your spine, as if following a road someone once walked in another life. You may not have the full map yet, but your skin has never forgotten. To reflect, is there a part of your body that has always felt strange, too weak, too sensitive, too foreign? Instead of rejecting it, what happens if you listen to it? What happens if you ask, "What are you trying to remind me of?" In the next part, we'll go deeper, beyond the skin, to where pain lingers without a wound. Not all scars are visible, but some appear the moment we are born. A mark on the shoulder, a discoloration near the ribs, a strange shape across the chest. They may look harmless, but sometimes they carry something more, a signature, an echo, a piece of unfinished story. Edgar Cayce read for thousands of people. Time and time again, he pointed to a pattern. Birthmarks and unexplained physical pain often mirrored how a person died in a past life. One child had a dark, round birthmark on his head, and later described vivid dreams of being shot there. Another woman lived with searing pain in her left side. Though no tests ever showed a cause, Cayce revealed her past life as a healer who had been pierced with a spear. From the very place the pain now radiated, science may hesitate, but stories persist. Across cultures, across generations, Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist from the University of Virginia, studied over 3 cases of children with past life memories. Many of them had marks, defects, or chronic issues that directly correlated to their described deaths in a previous incarnation. The body, whether newborn or grown, often remembers long before we do. You might know this in a different way: a chronic ache, a migraine that returns without reason, a burning behind your shoulder blade, as if something unfinished still weighs on you. You've seen every specialist, tried every remedy, and yet it lingers, not because your body is broken, but because your soul is trying to be heard. Cayce taught that karma isn't punishment, it's continuity. Pain is not a sentence, it's a message, and when we stop trying to erase it, we begin to translate it. So what if your discomfort isn't random? What if it's the soul saying, "Please, look here, something is still waiting to be understood. Something still needs your love." And what if healing doesn't begin with fixing the pain, but listening to it? Reflect on this. Is there a part of your body that has always hurt without clear cause? Have you ever wondered, what if the pain is not from now? What if it's from before? You don't need to believe it right away. Just soften, stay curious, and notice what arises. In the next part, we'll descend even deeper into the emotional body, where what was once buried in fear is still trembling beneath the surface of your skin. There are wounds that never leave a mark, no bruise, no cut, nothing the eye can see, but they live inside you as tension, as tightness, as the ache you feel after holding your breath too long, not because you are broken, but because something is still unfinished. Edgar Cayce often spoke of emotions as energy that doesn't just vanish. If unreleased in one life, they follow us into the next. Grief, he said, may settle in the lungs, fear in the kidneys, unforgiveness in the joints, and shame, it often hides in the belly, pulling your center inward without a sound. Modern psychology now echoes what Cayce described a century ago. They call it somatic memory, the body storing what the mind couldn't process. But Cayce went one step further. He said that some of these emotions are not even from this life. They are echoes carried forward through the soul's journey, waiting to be heard, felt, released. Have you ever cried without knowing why? Felt a deep sadness that had no name? Or sensed that you were carrying someone else's fear, as if it had always been yours? That may not be imagination. It may be resonance. A thread your soul never finished weaving. A feeling left behind, still waiting for a home. There was a woman Cayce once read for. She had no physical illness, but her stomach was always in knots. She avoided love, feared intimacy. Cayce revealed that, in a past life, she had taken a vow of chastity, not for faith, but from betrayal. Now, in this life, her body responded to closeness, with fear, tension, resistance, not because she didn't want love, but because her body remembered the cost of it. The body doesn't forget, not the physical pain, not the emotional contracts, not even the promises you whispered to yourself in another life about who you would be and what you would never feel again. So if there's a part of you that resists joy, that shuts down when kindness comes close, or that flinches in the presence of warmth, don't judge it. Listen to it. It may be your soul asking for your gentleness, not your control, because underneath every emotional ache, there is a truth waiting to be loved. Reflect with me. Is there an emotion you've carried for so long, You don't even question it anymore. What if that emotion isn't even yours, but an inheritance from a version of you that never got to finish her story? In the next part, we'll explore the deeper meaning of karma, not as a punishment, but as the soul's sacred design for healing. Karma is a word we hear often, sometimes whispered like a threat, sometimes mistaken as fate. But karma, as Edgar Cayce described it, is neither revenge nor reward. It is memory, in motion, a thread of cause and effect, woven through lifetimes, guiding the soul not toward punishment, but toward completion. Cayce once said, "Karma is simply meeting yourself again, not to suffer, but to understand, to choose differently, to reclaim the part of you that got lost in pain or tangled in fear." You are not being punished for who you were. You are being given the chance to love more deeply, to see more clearly, to live more consciously than you did before. Think of it this way: a soul who once misused power may be born into a life of limitation, not as a sentence, but as a sacred classroom where humility becomes strength. A soul who once caused harm through silence may now live with a throat that trembles when speaking truth, not as a punishment, but as a calling to reclaim the voice once withheld. This is how karma works. It speaks through the body. It draws familiar faces to you. It places you in situations that feel strangely known, because in some deeper timeline, you've been here before. Only this time, you get to choose again. Cayce believed that each challenge in the body, each illness, restriction, or imbalance is not an accident, but part of a plan your soul helped write. Before you came here, before you had a name, you saw the path, and you said yes, not because it would be easy, but because it would awaken something sacred within you. So if you've asked yourself, why this pain? Why this body? Why this life? Maybe the answer isn't punishment. Maybe it's purpose. Maybe this is the very life where the pattern ends, where the wound finds healing, where the cycle begins to close, not with force, but with grace. Reflect now, gently. Can you look at your body, your story, your struggles, as something you once chose? In order to grow, what happens if you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what part of me is trying to come home through this? In the next part, we'll move into the core of your being, your spine, the silent pillar where soul and body align. There is a quiet place within you, a place you rarely think about, but one that carries you through every breath, every step, every choice. It is your spine, the central column, the bridge between your physical body and your invisible essence. To Edgar Cayce, the spine was far more than a structure of bones. He saw it as a sacred channel, an instrument through which the soul expresses itself in matter. He said that blockages in the spine weren't just physical misalignments. They were often signs of energetic imbalance, spiritual disruption manifesting as tension, stiffness, or pain. Each vertebra, in Cayce's view, corresponds not just to nerves and organs, but to specific spiritual lessons and karmic memories. The upper spine, near the neck and shoulders, often holds the weight of responsibility, burdens carried for others, or the pressure of not speaking one's truth. The middle spine, around the heart and ribs, can carry grief or memories of love lost, trust broken. The lower spine, near the sacrum and hips, often holds fears about survival, shame from past choices, or the energetic echoes of a soul who once felt unsafe in the world. And yet, the spine is not just where we store the past, it is also where the future begins. Cayce believed that when the spine is clear, when energy flows freely through the body's central line, we come into alignment not just physically, but spiritually. We begin to hear the soul again. We begin to remember who we were and who we came here to become. Modern science has only just begun to catch up. Neuroscience speaks of the vagus nerve, running from brain to gut, regulating emotion, breath, immunity. Ancient yogic systems call it the sushumna, the central channel of life force. Different names, same truth. Your spine is not just part of your body. It is the axis of your becoming. So if you felt heaviness in your back, tension in your neck, or pain in your hips, ask not just what your posture is doing, but what your soul might be carrying. What burden hasn't been set down? What memory hasn't been released? What emotion is quietly asking to be seen so it can finally move on? A gentle reflection. When was the last time you truly listened to your back? Not as a source of discomfort, but as a messenger of your deeper self. Run your hand along your spine. Close your eyes and ask, what story are you holding for me? What truth wants to rise here, if I allow it? In the next part, we'll explore what happens when the body becomes the soul's messenger through illness, not to hurt, but to awaken. There are times when the body speaks louder than the voice, not with words, but with fever, with fatigue, with a quiet unraveling that no test can fully explain. And in those moments, we often ask, what's wrong with me? But what if nothing is wrong? What if something sacred is trying to break through? Edgar Cayce often reminded us, every illness has a message. Listen carefully, and you may hear the soul itself. He believed that disease, whether chronic, sudden, or mysterious, was not random, not cruel, but meaningful, a coded whisper from the soul, urging us to pause, to return, to realign with what we came here to become. Sometimes the body gets sick because the heart has been silenced too long. Sometimes pain arises because we have wandered too far from the path of our purpose. And sometimes the illness arrives, not to destroy, but to redirect. A woman once asked Cayce why her body was failing, even though she had lived a good, moral life. He answered gently, the body breaks only when the spirit has forgotten its song. And in that answer, there is no judgment, only an invitation to stop chasing a cure and begin seeking communion. Modern medicine may treat the symptoms, and that is important. But spiritual medicine asks a deeper question. What is the body trying to tell me that I have not yet had the courage to hear? Cayce often noted that certain illnesses carry spiritual themes. Lung conditions may speak of unresolved grief. Thyroid issues may signal a lifetime of unspoken truths. Heart disease may reflect a soul that once gave too much or withheld too long. Autoimmune disorders often appear when the soul is in conflict with itself, when the inner voice is ignored, denied, or forgotten. The body is not the enemy. It is the translator of the invisible, and illness is often the soul's final attempt to awaken us to something we can no longer ignore. A calling, a shift, a return to alignment. So pause, ask yourself, is there an illness or imbalance in your body that feels meaningful, that began during a time of deep emotional conflict or spiritual confusion? And more importantly, what if the healing isn't found only in medicine, but in memory, in listening, in honoring, in finally allowing your soul to speak through the vessel it chose to carry it? A quiet reflection. If your illness could speak in full sentences, what would it say? Would it ask for forgiveness, for stillness, for your truth to finally be lived? In the next part, we'll explore why you chose this exact body before you were ever born. The shape, the wounds, the gifts. They were never an accident. Before the first breath, before your heartbeat began, before the light of this world ever touched your skin, you chose. Yes, you, the soul you are, the consciousness behind your eyes. You chose this body, this form, this vessel with all its curves, its flaws, its wonders, its scars, and not just the body, but the family it would be born into, the challenges it would face, the patterns it would break. Edgar Cayce spoke of this moment, the time between lifetimes, as sacred, a space where the soul reviews what it has learned and what it still needs to understand. There, with divine guidance, you did not choose the easiest path. You chose the most meaningful one. He once said, "Each soul enters with a mission, and each body is fitted for that mission." This means your height, your voice, your sensitivity, your chronic conditions, your emotional thresholds. They are not random. They are aligned. Each feature, each limitation, is a tool your soul shaped in advance, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Think of a violin. Each curve matters. Each string must be tuned just right to create the sound it was born to make. Your body is like that, a sacred instrument, and your life is the music. If you've ever wished to escape your body, if you've ever felt betrayed by it or ashamed of it, you are not alone. But maybe the soul in you knew exactly what it was doing. It chose this skin, this voice, this nervous system, because they would bring you face to face with the exact lessons your soul longed to learn. What if your sensitivity wasn't a flaw, but a form of ancient perception? What if the pain you carry is not a punishment, but a compass pointing you home? What if the parts of your body you've always judged are the very places where healing will one day pour through you? This is the deeper meaning Cayce offered. Not that life is easy, but that it is meaningful, and the body, your body, was chosen as the mirror through which the soul would come to know itself again, a quiet reflection. Can you look at your body today, not with criticism, but with reverence, not asking, "What's wrong with me?" but instead, "What did I come here to understand through this form?" In the final part, we'll step into the most powerful shift of all, how to begin healing the karmic story, not through force, but through loving attention, because the soul remembers and the body has always been waiting. There comes a moment when remembering is no longer enough, when the soul, having uncovered the map, must now begin to walk the path, not away from the body, but deeper into it, not to escape the pain, but to meet it with love. Healing does not always mean removing the wound. Sometimes it means holding it differently, with presence, with reverence, with the understanding that this pain was once your soul's prayer to wake up. Edgar Cayce often said, "Spirit is the life, mind is the builder, physical is the result." To heal the physical, we begin with spirit, with intention, with compassion, and with a return to inner alignment. So how do we begin? Not by fighting the body, but by listening, not by silencing the symptoms, but by asking, "What are you here to show me?" There are many ways to begin releasing karmic patterns through the body. Movement that is mindful, like yoga, gentle stretching, walking while whispering gratitude to your limbs. Touch that is sacred, laying hands over a place of pain, not to fix it, but to simply say, "I'm here now." Voice that is freed, speaking aloud what has long been silenced, even if it trembles, especially if it does. Breath that is conscious, inhaling as if drawing in divine light, exhaling as if releasing lifetimes of heaviness. You don't need dramatic rituals. You don't need perfect posture. You just need to begin with gentleness and with the belief that healing is possible, because it is, and it doesn't come from rejecting the body, but from finally recognizing it as your soul's oldest companion. A quiet practice, if you wish. Tonight, when the world is quiet, sit in stillness. Place your hand over the part of your body that calls to you most. Whisper to it, "I remember now. You're not the problem. You are the guide." Then breathe and listen. There is wisdom in the silence, and your body has waited lifetimes to finally be heard. Otro, you've traveled far, not in distance, but in awareness, through the skin, through the scars, through the spine, through the sacred echoes your body carries, from lives once lived and lessons still unfolding. This is not the end. It's a beginning. Because true healing is not about fixing what is broken. It is about remembering what was never lost. Your body is not your enemy. It is your soul's canvas, and every ache, every mark, every tear is part of a masterpiece, still becoming whole. If this journey touched something in you, if a part of you feels quietly seen, then I invite you to pause, to feel, and if you're ready, to whisper just one word into the comments below. Q, not for a question, but for a quiet knowing, a soul memory, a beginning,